Okay, so I'm here in the location of what I believe is the actual location of Mount Sinai in the Bible, that Moses ascended to meet with God and get the Ten Commandments. There's people who, I guess there's a debate over if the location is either here or in another location that's in the Sinai Peninsula, which is west of here. This is Western Arabia and Saudi Arabia, and but I believe it's here for a multiplicity of reasons. Just the archaeological evidence here and the logistical evidence is here. In Sinai, the location there, the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt, as it's called, the location there is logistically not really a viable place for the Israelites to be traveling through with, 1.5 million people. Moses leading these people through an extremely mountainous area. Here, on the other hand, in this region, there are a lot of valleys that are between these mountains that are like a mile, not even a mile, maybe a half a mile wide or a quarter of a mile wide, that are easily traversable, very flat, that are suitable for people walking through. This isn't a very clear image here, but on the other side of this ridge there's a very clear valley. Anyways, so this mountain here is what I believe is Mount Sinai, and what other people believe is Mount Sinai. At the base of the mountain here, just behind this ridge, you can't see it in this video, but behind this ridge is Moses' altar, and Moses' altar there is surrounded by corrals for cattle for the sacrifices, and the altar itself is actually made out of unhewn rocks, which are unchiseled rocks, not squared away. They're just made out of it's just made out of rocks that are found on the ground, and then they're placed in a fashion of an altar, and that's how it is over here. And that's consistent with the biblical narrative, because God commands Moses and the Israelites that if they were going to make an altar around here, they can't use hewn rocks, chiseled rocks, because it, in a sense, defiles God's creation, and He wants, supposedly, I guess, to create it just out of the undefiled rocks, essentially. And so that's over here, and the corrals are very clear. They're still intact, and the altar is there as well, and it's very clearly man-made, and I'll put some pictures up of those as well. And then on the other side of this ridge is the valley. You can't see it from here, but on the other side is also the giant altar to the golden calf. And we know it's an altar because it's not just a large pile of rocks. It is several rocks that are very kind of high up and very large. But we know it was made into an altar because around this rock is pictures of calves of some sort of cow deity, and the cow deity that is depicted on the altar is the same cow deity that you see in Egypt. Actually, there is a cow god, ancient cow god of fertility in Egypt, and the images of that cow god in Egypt are the same images that you see depicted on this altar that's just over the ridge there. And so that's consistent with the biblical narrative, in the sense that these people who are coming out of Egypt, the Israelites, and now they're here and they're waiting for Moses on the mountain, and they're getting frustrated because Moses is taking a long time, and then they start erecting this altar. And it makes sense that they are again trying to reconnect with this calf god of Egypt that they're familiar with, and try to reestablish some sort of cultic worship with that god instead of the God of Moses and Israel and whatnot. So that's consistent, and I'll have some pictures of that as well. There's multiple other reasons why this location makes a lot of sense, is because this location is very close to also the split rock, which is the split rock of Moses, where the water was given to the Israelites. It's somewhere over this way past the mountain, and it's about 10 miles away, about a little less than a day's journey to that location. And the split rock is pretty amazing because it sits on top of a hill, and it's surrounded by some valleys that are clearly have water erosion everywhere in the valleys from where the water would have been sitting. And the split rock itself is this giant rock sitting on top of this hill, and it's split right down the middle, and the split is large enough to actually get up into, and a whole person, you can actually go right through the split. It's that big. And it's very, very clearly some sort of religious site as well, because there are actually the unhewn rock altars all around the split rock as well. And so it makes sense that the Israelites are setting up altars to the Lord there. And there's no images of any kind of other deities, right? So there's no, and same thing with here with the altar that Moses erected in front of Mount Sinai to the Lord. There's no other deities on those altars, no depictions, no pictures of anything. It's just the unhewn rock altars that are to Yahweh. So that's consistent. Also, this area is very close to Midian, which is a modern day, it's another Arabic name now, but it's here a day's journey or so from this location, which is makes sense because Jethro, the father-in-law and priest of Midian, father-in-law to Moses and the priest of Midian, he came up to meet Moses here at Sinai, and it makes sense that he could make that journey. It's not a very far journey, maybe a day or so by foot to get here. So in that location, there's a lot of testimony to the fact that that particular town is ancient Midian and outside of biblical sources and whatnot. So there's a lot of archaeological evidence that points to this location being the location of the true Mount Sinai. Hope that was clear. If there's questions, please leave them in the description below. Again, there's the Mount Sinai. And also, I should have mentioned too, over on this ridge here is also supposedly Elijah's cave that he stayed in for a while, which is also consistent with the biblical narrative. And it's just a cave on the side of the mountain over here. That I can't completely confirm, but it is also consistent. If that is the cave, then it would make a lot of sense that it's there. So yeah, it is a pretty spectacular place. If you have a chance, come out here to Western Arabia, to Mount Sinai. And just a side note here, it should be noted that this location is not a tourist place. This is very much a very remote area in Saudi Arabia, and there's actually, just recently, you can see there's some buildings here, but just recently the Saudi government has been setting up they're working on some different projects over here, and all these buildings and whatnot are pretty recent, within maybe the past 6 months or so that these were set up. But anyways, this location in general, up until this point, has not been touched by really anybody. And so for the altars to be here is pretty incredible, because number one, it doesn't make sense for the Muslim Arabs to set this up, because this is inconsistent with the Islamic narrative, right? This kind of confirms the Bible, not their narrative. I don't know why they would want to set something up like this that would be kind of flying in the face of what they particularly believe. But so it doesn't make sense for them to set up anything like this, and it doesn't make sense for them to set up things like with the golden calf. Muslims are very much against images of idols, So to make that would be pretty blasphemous for them. That's not something they want to do. And also, it is, again, it's not like this is a tourist location. Like, nobody comes out here. Like, right now I'm with some colleagues, but we are the only people out here right now. And so yeah, it's pretty incredible that this area has been pretty much untouched by human hands for thousands of years. And that yeah, it just should be noted that it's not a tourist location, so it doesn't make sense for it just to be a fraud, essentially. Okay, so we are here at the base of Mount Sinai, and what we're looking at right now is where Moses set up the altar to the Lord. And as you can see here, we'll walk over here, you can see there are the corrals for the animal sacrifices that were obviously set up to house the animals until they were sacrificed on the altar. And clearly you can see these are man-made corrals, and it's pretty obvious. It kind of comes up along this bend here. It's kind of a long corral. And then up this way here is where the altar is. You can see it here. This is the altar. It's partly intact now, but a little bit no longer completely intact, but clearly see it was here. And this is where the sacrifices would have been. And so you can see, sorry, my finger was in the way, but you can see up this way, not this peak, but around the bend of this other peak is where Mount Sinai is at. You can't really see it from this angle perfectly. And then up in this direction is where Elijah's cave is. It's actually up there. You can't see it on the camera here, but I have some colleagues that are hiking up there right now. And so let's look back over here. And so I should note that, so Moses wasn't supposed to use cut stone for the altar. So this is why this is all just rocks that are put together into a altar formation. But it was okay to use cut stone or hewn stone to create the pillars. The Lord just commanded not to use cut stone for the altars. But the pillars were okay to use cut stone. So you can clearly see here, these are pieces of the pillars, and they're, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but there's chisel marks all over them. And there's pieces on the ground here. There's other pieces over here. So these are cut stone from a quarry that is just up the hill a little bit. And then, yeah, so it's pretty amazing that this stuff is still here after thousands of years, and pretty much untouched by man. Nobody really comes out here